Okay, welcome back everyone. A bunch of us are away. I think maybe they're sick. I'm gonna say this for the camera's sake, for everyone's sake. If you're sick, stay home. Nothing you do in this building is more important than your health. Believe me. Yeah, go home. It's not cap. Nothing you do here is more important than your health.
Me too.
It's because you're not a boss hit. You don't have 2 health bars, okay? One slipper hit and you're done for. You're not like me, man. Hey, we're gonna talk about chapter 7, historical globalization and imperialism. These are words that we already analyzed, defined, and discussed. Okay, we're still chatting a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's better. I have a box of tissues there. I don't know if you're sick or if you're crying, I can't tell right now. Both, okay. I would be too, okay? Hey, so,
I can't see.
you remember when I said, you can't see the board?
I can, but like fuzzy.
Okay, you gotta get your eyes checked out.
I am
It's not a
today.
board problem. Remember when I told you that point about how your course, your curriculum, simply wants to look at human contact, human movement, kind of when European people started doing it, right? Remember that? Somebody say yes for the video's sake, please.
Yes.
Thank you, okay? No. Don't you kids think that that's a bit racist?
Yeah.
A little strange?
Wait, what did you even say? Yeah, I wasn't paying.
You weren't even listening.
No, I was trying to write.
You were dialed in on the notes.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I was given feedback last year. The kid said, Mr. Kawaja, you should like do the slide first and then talk about it because we can't listen to you and do our notes at the same time. And I said, no. Okay. But I'll give you a moment. Oh, here, I'll just go over the slides. Yeah, so I should go over the slides. I haven't gone over these in like 3 years. People's desires for natural resources which were not native to their own land was one of the motivations to develop trade routes. You know, think about it this way. Like, how many of you have a fridge in your bedroom? Anyone have a fridge in their bedroom? No. So when you want to get food, boys and girls, where do you go? You go to the kitchen, right? We could call that a migration. You take yourself, you migrate south, north, east, west, wherever your kitchen is, you go to where the food is. How many of you scurry back to your room afterwards? Okay, a lot of us, right? How many of you share a meal with your family at least like once every week? I visit my parents once a week. I don't usually eat there. I usually munch on all the sugary snacks because I don't have those in my own place. Okay, so, you know, all of you are, you know, doing the same process. Your bedroom has maybe crumbs and leftovers, but the kitchen is where the treasure trove is, where the fridge is, where the good stuff is, right? Or the store, maybe. So one of the earliest forms of globalization was the Silk Road. Right, so again, your course just wants to talk about a very small bit of history. Small bit of history that makes the people in Canada look really bad. And I don't like that because as someone who wasn't born in Canada, I may not like everything that's going on right now politically, but believe me, it's a blessing to be here. Even if the history was violent. But, tell you what, places like Pakistan, where I'm from, is still violent. Just a handful of years ago, a bunch of people with like AKs and small machine gun rifles, whatever, they attacked one of my community's mosques and they murdered about 50 to 75 people while they were praying. You're making this face like, whoa, that's so strange. Well, they did that because they had a difference of religious belief. And these different groups of people still fight to this day, and it's violent. Like every now and then, you know, my community will send out a message saying like, hey, this person was murdered, their business was burnt down, and again, the reason is simply because they have a different belief. And so the reason why I bring that up and bring that context in is that, you know, history is very violent. Human beings are very capable of violence. No different than Animal Planet. If you kids watch, you know, the Nature Network and watch, you know, the way lions and tigers kill one another. It's very ruthless, right? Most of history was like that. So it's a bit strange to me that we just focus on that part of history where Europeans left Europe and started doing horrible things that were likely going on around them all the time. Okay. So an early form of globalization was the Silk Road, and sure, there was things before that as well. You know, about 2,000 years ago, because 114 BCE is backwards now. You had this massive land and water network, I'll show you a photo in the next slide, that connected many people around the world. North and South America were still relatively isolated. You know, people hadn't really gone there yet. And certainly not in mass like they did once the Europeans started doing it. Lots of things were exchanged. So it's important to note that it's not just material stuff they're exchanging, right? So when you go migrate from your bedroom to the kitchen to grab food, do you ever say hello to people in the house? No, that's terrible. Some of you do. So you exchange information. What's up?
I do most of my raiding at night.
You do most of your raiding at night. No way, you're like a Viking.
My parents usually keep our washer and dryer on overnight, so I use that.
Okay. So under the cloak of darkness, with the distraction of all these sounds, you go and you raid the fridge.
Yes.
And you avoid all contact.
Yes.
Okay, he's Viking.
That's how it's
Okay.
done.
People would also exchange information. The way you kids are getting bored.
Yeah.
Just talking. Wow. They would exchange information. They would exchange material goods. Material goods, which include and which we'll study about, which also included the trade of people, which we think nowadays is horrible. They exchanged religious information. They also went to war over that. Okay. This led to international trade, which is the interchange of materials, manufactured goods among distant groups. I should say people, not materials, okay? International trade is just exchanging things with people from far and wide, right? So when you go to your kitchen and you talk to mom and dad and they ask how your school day went and you said, whatever, very minimal trade of information. When you go home and you find out your sibling ate all the food that you had left behind, that you wanted to eat, that you were waiting for until you got home, that's a lot of information, which maybe leads to conflict. Right. What happens when someone gets sick in your house? What do? Well, sure, maybe like 200 years ago, 100 years ago, right? Like, oh, you're sick? Wow. Off with your head. Yeah, you stay away from them, you isolate.
Yeah. Oh, I get sick. I do get sick.
Some of you choose to show up to school.
My parents forced me.
So sad. Your parents need to take into consideration people like myself
That's what I say.
coming into my place of work and infecting me, leading to misery and low quality of life for me. Hey, look at that. Does anyone recognize the animal there? Animal.
Dog.
Okay. Camels are very useful for transporting things across desert areas, right? And your transportation, boys and girls, who are chatting, all I'm hearing is seating plan, Mr. Kawaj. That's all I'm hearing. Camels are very useful for traveling across the desert because they have just this biological capacity to store water, right? So they don't really need a whole lot of water as they're doing this travel. That's a form of transportation technology, right? This is, I think, slightly different than a camel. It might still be a camel. Okay? Look at these trade routes, right? Does anyone recognize any countries here? Any names? Russia. Anything else? Afghanistan. Turkey. Pakistan. Hey, somebody saw Pakistan. That's where I'm from. India. Not Chile. Okay. Iraq. Thailand?
No, never mind.
Okay.
That's a long. I can't see that that right there is a long. Chili war. You've got to be that entire. Who said that? Of course there was.
So, the routes in red are over land. The ones blue are over sea. But as you can see, this huge mass, the majority of, let's say, Earth, was connected with the Silk Road. Right? This allowed for a lot of exchange of information, materials, of different resources, of people that would have allowed the people on that trade route to gain benefits from that, right? So, you know, again, the benefit for when you leave your room and go to the kitchen to get food is that you get food. Maybe you learn about what's going on in the house. You talk to some people, right? Maybe you see some sunlight. Maybe you go into the backyard, you touch some grass, right? You feel a little bit better, right? Instead of being like horizontal all day, laying down, you get vertical. The blood leaves your head, right? You're vertical. Okay, do you understand? Horizontal, laying down, vertical, standing up. You walk, you get a little bit of locomotion. These are all things that are good for you. Okay? So, imagine if you only stayed in your room. You wouldn't see your family. You wouldn't be talking to people. It wouldn't be too bad, maybe for a time. But later on, you'll learn like, oh, there's things going on in the house. Grade 10s who are so chatty. Just want to acknowledge the boys in this room are very well behaved. Guys at the back are questionable. You're doing an excellent job. This group of girls, that group of girls, chatty. What's up? What's your question? Do you have a question? What's your question?